The Earth is an ever-evolving and ever-changing place. Um, it's the place that we all call home, and it's the place as life as we know it calls home. Humanity thrives under its own confines, government, law, order. However, nature thrives under its intended design, steady, free, unbothered. Humanity and nature are meant to thrive together, live in relation with one another, grow, live based off of each other. Humanity is supposed to get things from nature, and nature is supposed to get things from humanity. However, as we all know, that's kind of a one sided relationship at this point, and hence why we get all of the problems like overpopulation, overconsumption, overshoot, pollution, air, marine, water, deforestation, logging, overfishing, airborne diseases. The list goes on and on. The problems go on, and so the question is, when will it stop? It will only stop when humanity makes the switch between unsustainable to sustainable, destruction to protection. So, how do we do that? Let's talk about it. So the first problem I'm going to be covering today is overpopulation and overshoot. And you may be asking, what does that mean? Well, overpopulation is a species' population becomes greater than its carrying capacity. An overshoot is a situation in which the Earth cannot regenerate the resources used by the world's population each year. And we are currently seeing this with humanity as of right now. There is an 80 million population increase each year. According to that graph, you can see around the year 2100, the projected population is going to be around 11 billion people. And as of right now, it's at 8.1 billion people, and we are already seeing problems with overpopulation. So, what are the three causes of overshoot and overconsumption? Well, the first two are very positive statistics: falling mortality rate and falling fatality rate of infants. This is caused by the extending lifespans of humanity and then also increase in technology, medicines, and all of those things. However, the third one is a lot more controllable, and it is underutilized contraceptives. This is basically unwanted pregnancies, which obviously would make a spike in the population. And so those three are just directly tied to overpopulation. So, what are the impacts of that? Excess deforestation, overused farmlands, limited resources, and all of that would cause the food production rates to fall. The larger the population, the more resources demanded, and then the more we have all of these problems. So, what are some solutions? Well, free contraceptives would be one, providing these to colleges, women's centers, churches, and places that women go that are free of shame. However, I know this might not be the most convenient method. So, obviously, just buying less. Stop buying things that you don't need, that you just want. The overconsumption and buying all of these things from fast fashion to the new water bottle that you saw at the store ends up being pollution. And so the second one is plastic pollution. We produce over 450 million tons of plastic every single year. And most of this is from third world countries like Malaysia and the Philippines because they do not have sterile water that they can drink, and so they are forced to have to buy plastic water bottles and other plastic resources like that. And then those end up in what we know as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a large patch of garbage in the Pacific Ocean between Japan and America. There are two, the east and the west, and basically the ocean currents push all of that trash into the convergence zone right in the middle of the ocean. And you can actually see it from satellite imaging, which just shows how large of a mess that is. It's also 2 times the size of Texas or 3 times the size of the country of France, right in the middle of our oceans. And then the impacts, obviously microplastics is a big one. Microplastics is when plastic waste breaks down into little tiny pieces that you can't even see with the human eye and gets eaten by sea life or gets mixed with minerals to create salt, and therefore we just end up eating our own trash essentially. And then obviously danger for marine life. Species like sea turtles, sharks, dolphins, different types of fish have been seen being entrapped in plastic waste in the ocean, and it actually has made a decrease in their population. And then obviously consuming seafood, which I already explained. So what are some solutions to that? Buying sustainable items made of metal, clay, glass, things that would break down instead of plastic. If your income allows it, it would be good to do that. And then also donating, if you have the ability to donate to organizations that provide metal water bottles, water filters, or metal straws to third world countries so they don't have to use as much plastic. And then the biggest one, picking up trash and recycling. I think that's pretty easy, and I think that's something that we can all do. Obviously, if you see a piece of trash on the ground, you can just pick it up, and that would help decrease. And then the last problem that I'll be talking about is deforestation. Deforestation kills around 15 billion trees each year. And that has resulted in one half of our Earth's rainforest being completely cleared. If we keep up with this, they will go down even more, and potentially our rainforest will be gone. This doesn't just affect the consumers who are purchasing paper and wood products and palm oil products, which is the biggest thing that they plant by chopping down these trees. It also affects species like orangutans, where we've seen a 2/3 decrease in their population over just the past several years. And they are not the only species that are being affected by deforestation right now. All of these species and more are on the brink of extinction just because of deforestation. Another fact is that this is also affecting humans as well. Indigenous tribes are actually being forced out of their homes and told that they need to leave just so that we can do slash and burn farming, which is the biggest method that we see right now. It's basically when a company burns down as much forest as they need to plant their new crops, and then the ash from those burning trees falls and settles and creates fertile soil, which then they plant the palm oil trees and plants like that, that they produce new resources. And the thing about this is that this only lasts for about 2 years, and after every 2 years, they just do the exact same thing on a new set of forests and land, and they leave the old land completely useless. And so, as we can all tell, that's very unsustainable, and that not only, again, puts those animals on the brink of extinction and those people forced out of their homes just so that we can use land for 2 years and leave it useless. So, what are the impacts? Again, overused soil, extinct species, and limited resources. I've talked about that. When you continually farm soil for the palm oil plants, it becomes useless, and the higher demand that we demand, the more resources that are needed, and then the more deforestation ends up happening. So what are some solutions? Donate and advocate. If available, again, donate to organizations that advocate for reforestation. I have one up here. It's Avoided Deforestation Partners, and they, again, take the money that they get donated to them and put that towards reforestation and advocacy for the indigenous tribes that are being forced out of their land. And then again, buying recycled or responsibly sourced wood products. This is going to decrease the amount of wood that is needed when we from plants that are or trees that are being cut down due to deforestation. So my biblical integration. So I'm going to start off with the Scopes trial. I'm sure you guys have all probably heard of it. This trial happened in 1995 with John Scopes, who was a high school teacher at the time. Decided he did not want to teach biblical teachings in his classroom. He wanted to teach evolution. And then the state of Tennessee decided, well, we're going to sue you because you need to be teaching the Bible in your class. And this started a huge separation between Christianity and science. Now it's mostly just politics, and the people that you see advocating for lots of these problems are advocated by non-Christians. Not always, but most of the time, and they have a very large stigma around them because it's become less about the problem, the actual problem itself, and more about the point that they're trying to make through the politics. And this is just not how Christians should be responding. We've kind of taken a stance of sitting back and just observing. However, we should obviously be doing more. And so what should we do? Well, the first place we should look is go to the Bible. Psalms 24, 1 through 2 and Genesis 1:26 calls us specifically to reign over the earth and protect it. And yet we are not doing that. I'm not saying that all Christians aren't doing that, because there are many Christian organizations out there that do advocate and do protect this stuff. However, we could be doing more, and we should be the ones at the front lines, starting organizations, advocating, fighting, because the ones who should care the most about the planet should be the ones that are called to take care of it. So, quick recap. These are the solutions that I discovered in my research. Plant and protect local wildlife, donate to organizations, recycle and pick up trash, buying sustainable products, consume what you need, and reduce driving and flying. We can all do just about every one of these. If you don't want to donate to organizations, you could recycle and pick up trash. Everybody has the opportunity to do that. Or even though it might not be convenient, you can at least think before you drive somewhere, hey, can I walk to this place instead of driving? You can do things like that. And then again, consume only what you need. That's a big thing, because not only does that tie to overpopulation, but it also ties directly to pollution and deforestation. That is probably the biggest thing that we can think about. We have to make a switch. Think before we do things, before buying plastic, before driving everywhere. We have to be intentional. We have to protect the earth. If not for us, for future generations. They have the chance, they need the chance to see the beautiful earth just as we do. Thank you.
We'll go to our guests first. If you got any feedback or questions for Maddy. I have a question. Maddy, so going back to Trash Island, what is being done now to mitigate what's happening with that? Is there anybody that's trying to go in and clean it up?
There's definitely
sanctions put on countries that are contributing.
There's definitely organizations that I know from the United States itself. I think, there's one called like Oceans. Yeah. That actually goes out and like makes an effort to pick up that trash and clean it up. But again, like the main root of that problem is the initial buying all of that plastic, and then plastic takes thousands of years to break down, and so then it just ends up back in the ocean. So there are organizations doing that and making devices and things like that to help with that problem. But again, like the root of that problem itself is the plastic intake. Yeah. So.
Based on your research, do you think the main issue is lack of education, or do you think the main issue is economically driven, or something else as to why people are consuming plastics?
Just plastics?
Or just like
just in general?
In general.
I think that education definitely does help. I think this problem itself is extremely not overlooked, but it's something that we all are kind of aware of, and yet we kind of just forget about it. At least, I mean, even I do that. It's where it's like, I know I shouldn't be using plastic, but sometimes convenience over priority is a big deal. I actually talked about this in my paper, but we like convenience, and so a lot of these things are rooted with convenience, instead of thinking about like the priority over convenience, like priority of helping save the planet, like with not buying that water bottle. Well, it could be more convenient at the time, and so I think like that it actually in itself is the main problem. It's just people are greedy, people are selfish, and we want convenience. I think that's
so
it.
So on a follow up, and this is purely your opinion I'm going to ask about here. On a macro level, meaning government entity level, maybe even international relation level, what should governments do about this if individuals aren't willing to change their course?
I don't know. Can I think about that? Get back to you? Okay, great.
Anything else? I have a couple things. You mentioned you talked a little bit about overpopulation, and it's I hope I'm not being unfair by asking you to talk about something you really did, because you had a really wide you covered a lot of stuff, a lot of issues. And
overpopulation is something that people have been talking about for quite some time. As a matter of fact, folks were super worried about it a couple hundred years ago, and as it turns out, it wasn't half as big of a problem they thought it was going to be then. Largely because one of the things they didn't see coming was how good farming technology was going to get.
Mm-hmm.
The United States went from sorry, putting the history teacher hat on for a minute. Like the United States went from being 90% agrarian society, meaning 90% of us were making money off of farming, to less than 10% of us now making money off of farming. We've got more food now than we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
World hunger is thankfully on the decline.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of overpopulation, there are some countries that are now worried about the opposite problem of underpopulation.
Right.
So, and do you think that there's any type of environmental impact on? I think what I'm getting at is it necessarily an increase in population that's the problem regarding the environment, or is it our practices?
I would
that
say
the population would,
I would say it's our practices, 100%, because like overconsumption is really the main problem of like people in the United States actually consume 5 times more than the sustainable yield of the planet, and it's like that is where the root of the problem is. And actually, a little bit more biblical integration, I guess, but like I think the root of that is God gave us this earth and we can't find happiness in it. We can't find joy in what he already gave us, and so we're constantly searching for more material items, more material things, and that's why we have that problem. And that is the root, I feel like, of that problem itself, because the population will always grow, right? But like um it's what we consume that's the problem that we're finding. So
yeah, really well said. Like I think that's a really important distinction, right? Because a lot of the environmental, especially like in environmentalist literature and stuff like that, it's almost like sometimes I get the impression that a rise in population is a bad thing, as though like the less humans flourish, the better off we're going to be, and that
right,
seems really
right,
seems really problematic.
right.
But it's a really important distinction that maybe the overpopulation of more people practicing bad things,
Right.
like doing things the wrong way.
Right.
That's a really important distinction.
Well, because again, like overconsumption, I feel like is probably the root of most of the problems that I talked about, and even more. So if we can address that first and talk about like morally why like you don't need as much stuff as you have, like I feel like that would in itself solve a lot of those problems.
Well said. Well said. For sake of time, we move on.